All right. Before we discuss the results of the activity last time, let's take a look first at the FS that you have. Please take note that the deadline is tomorrow, okay? Deadline is tomorrow at 12 noon. Make sure that you have at least chosen 2 companies. Okay, Petron Pilipinas Shell, guys, ang suggestion ko medyo palitan nyo to, no? Kasi medyo mahirap tong mahirap i-analyze to kasi may mga account sila na very particular for the oil industry. So you might be, unless na meron sa inyong nagtatrabaho doon na nakakaalam ng so to make it easy for yourselves, kasi mahirap kung baka mag-suffer yung grade nyo dun sa sa output, kasi kung hindi nyo ma-justify, hindi nyo ma-analyze, you might get a low grade, no? So suggestion ko, pili na lang kayo ng medyo mas simple, mga manufacturing firms, and preferably listed sa Philippine Stock Exchange, sa PSE. Why? We choose companies that are listed in the PSE because it's easier to find information about those companies. Sa mga websites na required sila ng PSE na to comply with disclosure, tell information about the company. Okay, so Ginebra San Miguel Emperador, kung pwedeng palitan nyo guys, kasi medyo may issue to sa sa ethical products, kasi wine, tapos yung sa issue niya ng health, no, yung nakakaano ng health, at saka among other things, no, liquor. As much as possible, we don't want to engage in that. We don't want to let's say for the purpose of our subject, kung pwedeng palitan na lang itong Ginebra, San Miguel at saka Emperador. Okay. As I said also, itong PLDT and Globe, pwede siya, kaso tingnan nyo kung nakita nyo na FS niya, baka maguluhan kayo guys, kasi medyo may kahirapan din yun, no? Okay, so I encourage you to change these companies. You still have time. Anyway, pag naglagay kayo dyan ng iba, we will discuss naman, tingnan natin kung okay siya, no? So you still have a lot of time. For those of you who already chose these companies, ang suggestion ko, start gathering information already. You have the outline, you know what write-up is needed. Okay, so start looking at the outline, and then try already finding information or data about to fill in or to do the write-up for the outline of the paper. Okay? All right. So after that, guys, 32 tayo, no? 32. At 28 lang pala. So 28, so we have 7 groups. Okay, 7 groups. Okay, Ada, are you here, Ada?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. Could you kindly pakisulat na lang yung ID number mo dito, kasi wala akong ID number mo eh.
Okay.
Kaya i-chat mo na lang sa akin personally, no?
Okay po.
I-PM mo sa akin, ha? Kasi dun sa list ko, I don't have your ID number. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ada. Okay. Copy ko lang, ha. Just put here. Okay. All right. So let's now go to the exercise that we had last time. Let's quickly discuss that. Open code 12B. Okay. Let's go back to these 4 questions. Okay, these 4 questions. So the first question that we were going to review is, may dalawang companies. There are 2 firms. You have A and B. And we were told that A is a well-established company, B is a newcomer, and both of them need capital for specific projects. A is issuing a bond worth 100 million. So mangungutang siya ng 100 million. No? Payable in 10 years. Okay. Ganun din si B. Pareho silang kailangan na na capital requirement, both 100 million and parehong 10 years. Now we were told that one of these companies issued a bond at 7% and the other one at 8%. Okay, so the question was, which company issued the bond that has an 8% interest rate? And we said the answer is company B, no, firm B. Okay, so many of you got it, but some were not able to get it. It's okay, guys. Okay, so it's firm B, no? Firm B yung tamang answer dito. Okay, then ang next question, explain your choice. Bakit firm A or firm B? Okay, let's take a look at the answers. Dito, firm A is already well established. They can offer a more stable bond interest for their clientele, which may provide lower yields but a more stable portfolio in comparison to firm B. Okay, this sounds good naman yung reasoning. Kaso, it veers away from the principle that we have learned in class, no? So, isuspend ko muna yung pag-discuss nito. Ito naman, firm B is assumed to issue the 8% bond. Firm B is said to be newly established. It's likely it will generate more yields than firm A if they issue bonds with the highest interest rate. Okay, the answer, guys, is andali medyo may something's also not accurate about this explanation. No? Firm B is said to be newly established. It will likely generate more yields than firm A. Okay, so this is not accurate if they issue bonds with a higher interest rate. Okay, so medyo hindi accurate yung answer na to, no? Puntahan din natin to sa next answer. New firm in the market. They need an investor who will accept the deal in order for them to have a good credit standing. Okay, kailangan talaga nila ng investors. Kailangan nila ng 100 million for specified projects. 10 years silang babayaran yon, interest plus plus yung principal at the end. Kaso dito, guys, hindi sinasabi kung bakit firm B yung nag-issue ng 8%. Both A and B need an investor. Kailangan nila pareho ng 100 million. Okay? For them to have a good credit standing, pag umutang, guys, hindi automatically maganda yung credit standing. No? Ang credit standing, it's given when depende dun sa performance ng firm in the sense that they're able to pay interests on time and they're able to pay also principal na walang nadi-defaults, hindi sila nagkakaroon ng default. Okay, so medyo inaccurate din yung answer na to. Firm A, well-established and known firm, there is a higher tendency that they would have long-term notes and bank issues. Okay, not necessarily. Pwedeng, kasi depende sa amount, no? Pag malalaking amount, usually, it's usually companies would issue bonds, which means when they issue bonds, ibig sabihin, manghihiram sila long-term, no? Long-term debt. Okay, additionally, company is to acquire a larger liability would mean that they must have good standing, which firm A has. Okay, so, but then again, hindi sinasabi, guys, dito kung bakit 8% yung i-issue niya. No? It does not really address the issue. Next answer, firm B daw, because higher return on the bond compensates for the higher risk that comes with investing in firm B as it is relatively a new firm. Okay, so ito, okay, medyo nakuha yung point nito, guys, itong answer na to. Kasi ang answer, guys, is really the higher the assumed risk, the higher is the required return. So if I'm going to ask you, in which company are we going to assume a greater amount of risk? Is it company firm A or firm B? If we're the investor, guys, we will be assuming a greater amount of risk in firm B since it's relatively new and as compared to firm A, which has been there in the market for so long and has a good track record, a good credit standing. So we will be assuming a greater amount of risk. So kung mag-a-assume tayo ng greater risk, ano sabi sa principle? It will require a higher return. Okay? So this gets the point, nakuha nitong point na to, higher risk that comes with investing in firm B. Correct, no? Mas higher risk if firm B, so there will be a higher return. So this was the answer I was looking for, no? To compensate for the higher risk. Okay, so this is correct. Tapos ito, we think that the firm that issued was firm B since they're a new firm. If they want to raise capital, they would have to raise the bond. Okay, both need capital, both have to raise the bond, no? Sabi natin sa problem. Pero, so this does not answer why it's 8% for firm B. Okay, so when we answer questions like this, dapat very specific tayo and talagang laser pointed yung ano natin, yung answer natin. So the answer is firm B, because investors will be assuming a greater amount of risk if they invest in firm B, thus the higher required return. If firm B would also offer that bond, parehong tenor guys, parehong amount, 100 million, pinareho natin, parehong 10 years. Tapos si firm B, 7% lang din, okay, no rational investor will invest there. Kasi, isipin natin na, ito si firm A, mangungutang, established na yan. Ang ganda ng track record yan, nakakabayad talaga yan. Si firm B, bago, mangungutang din. Pero pareho ang rate nila, interest rate, 7%. Siyempre, guys, a rational investor will invest in firm A. No? Magpapautang siya kay firm A. Kasi the probability of default is lower when you invest in firm A as compared to firm B. Okay? So that should be the crux of the answer. Yun yung talagang pinakahinahanap natin na answer. Ito, because, ano ba to? Hindi nasabi dito yung ano, no? Sabi lang dito. So, firm B yung answer niya, sabi, because when you're new to the market, you need to find a way to appeal to investors by giving them more interest. Okay? So, in a sense, may partially correct to. Hindi nga lang dito nasabi na ano, it's not appealing to the, well, in a sense, parang ina-appeal natin investor. But what's lacking here is that there's no mention of the higher risk that is to be assumed by the investor. Okay? Then here, since firm B is a newer company, it's more likely to issue bonds at a higher rate to attract new investors and gather more funds to start up their business. Okay. Would not need to take as much risk. Okay, you know, of course, firm A and B, guys, they have risks, no? Pero yung risk na pinag-uusapan natin dito is the risk to be assumed by the investors, by those that will lend money. Hindi yung risk ni A at saka ni B. Si A at saka si B, kung saan man nila gagamitin yan, yung pera na yan, 100 million, may risk doon sa paggamit nila ng pera. Kunyari sa project risk, no? Baka yung investment ni B, ng 100 million yan, sabihin natin, it may be less risky than what firm A will invest. We don't know, no? Kasi hindi naman sinabi dito kung saan nila gagamitin yung pera, no? Ano yung nature ng investment. Ang sinabi lang sa atin dito na sino yung kanino mas malaki yung risk na i-assume ng investor. Okay? Firm A would not need to take as much risk or grab greater opportunities as they are already well established and financially stable. Well, partly true, but not necessarily partly true. No? Kasi pwede naman si firm A mag-invest in isang project na risky. No? Any firm, guys, any firm. So it does not matter kung ano siya, kung well-established na siya o hindi. Kasi if they are going to take on projects that are more risky, it's for the reason that they're expecting greater returns for that project. Okay, so last answer is firm A is well established compared to firm B. In terms of asset allocation, older companies would usually have bigger percentages in bonds. Okay, so ito yung medyo erroneous yung answer na to, di ba? Kasi sabi natin pag nag-issue yung company ng bonds, okay, ang tawag doon bonds payable, okay, and a well-established firm will have a lower interest rate compared to a new firm. Kasi nga, as I said a while ago, investors will be assuming a lower amount of risk in firm A as compared to firm B. So the company is also capable of going for a bigger percentage for bonds. Okay, so again, this ang concept, guys, ng ano ng interest rate is sa perspective ng investors. Okay? So, titingnan yan kung sa market rates, guys, kunyari prevailing interest rates, well, marami pang, before companies would do this, siyempre nagdo-due diligence sila. And usually, tinutulungan yung company sa mga investment companies, no? They're helped by investment companies in order to come up with issuance of bonds. Usually hindi kaya ng company mag-isa. So they hire the services of other investment companies in order to help them come up with the offering ng bonds. Okay, so we know the answer, guys. The answer is that it will be firm B that issued the 8%, okay, by virtue of the fact that investors who will put their money as creditors in firm B will be assuming a greater amount of risk because it's relatively new. Wala pa masyadong track record. So this requires that firm B provide a higher return. Kasi walang bibili ng bonds sila kung meron andyan si firm A na pareho lang yung tenor, okay? 100 million at saka 10 years. Okay, tapos 7% lang sa kanya. Sorry, parehong 7% yung inano nila, yung in-issue. So, lahat bibili kay bond A. Unless, guys, hindi rational yung nag-i-invest. Okay? Kasi meron tayong tinatawag na ang assumption natin, investors are rational. Ibig sabihin, nasa tamang pag-iisip. Rational. Okay? But in finance, guys, meron tayong field na tinatawag na behavioral finance, which tries to explain why seeks to explain why sometimes, or in many cases, investors do not behave rationally. Meron tayong tinatawag na irrational exuberance. Okay, so, but that's another topic in finance, yung behavioral finance. Okay, let's go to the next question. Ano daw yung mga nasa tayo, no? Ito yung mga cash na binigay. Okay. Ito, no? Year 0, negative 10,000, ibig sabihin palabas 54411. Ito yung cash flow natin. Ang tanong ko, in order for us to evaluate this, for us to be able to validate this or evaluate this, if this project is feasible or not, ano yung mga figures na to? And let's take a look at the answers. Okay, ang mga answers ay, okay, number 1, this represents net profit. Okay, so, okay, hindi siya net profit, no, guys? These are not net profits. In fact, sabi natin, okay, dito ko nalagay. Okay, para mas makita nyo. This represents net profit projection. Okay, hindi siya net profit, no? Sabi natin, pag tayo, you know the answer, guys. Pag nag-a-analyze tayo ng project, in order for us to analyze that and determine if it's feasible or not, ang ginagamit natin are ano, guys? Paki-chat. Anyone? Can anyone please chat the answer? Anong ginagamit natin? Okay, may nag-volunteer na answer. Okay, thank you, Mika. Okay, what's the question? Ang question ko, dun in answer to question number 9, yung mga figures na binigay dito, okay, these figures, yung nasa problem natin, what are these? For us to be able to evaluate or validate that, kung feasible yung project na yan. Okay, the answer is cash flow. Okay, you're correct, no? The answer is cash flow. So, dapat ang nakita natin doon, hindi expenses, hindi profit, dapat cash flow ang answer doon. Okay, may answer dito, guys, sa net present value. Okay, I'll explain this in a while. So, hindi net present value, guys, yung mga figures na yun. They're not net present values. I'll explain why. Okay, initial investment and passive. So, this is correct, no? yung nakita natin sa mga figures yan, initial investment, which is in the form of cash, no? And positive cash flow. Again, net present value, that's not the answer. Hindi siya net present value. Cash flow, okay. Initial investment, then positive cash flow, okay. Based on the computations, we have observed the values represent cash flows. Okay, tama to. No? Okay. Year zero investment, rest of the year's cash flow. Okay, so many of you got it, no? Cash flow yung ano natin dyan, yung answer. Okay, and then last question. Okay, ang tanong natin, assuming na ito yung cash flows natin, no? Assuming na ito yung cash flows natin, should you invest in that? So let's see your answers, guys. Sabi, ito, no. Bakit daw? This is, we do not believe this is smart investment. If we look at the numbers of the company capitalized in the market, medyo nawala yata itong ano dito, no? And was, wait, on a blank in the market and was gaining traction, ano to? Through the first year of its existence, but now has slowed down. Okay, this is a good answer, guys, but we will analyze this if this is valid in finance. No? Okay, so thank you for this answer. Performance lacks profitability. Okay, so there was the mention of profitability, and there was also the mention of slowing down. Okay, this is a very important concept. So thank you for this group for answering this. We will discuss this in a while. No? Dito naman ang answer dito, the project is worth investing because it showed positive net present value. Okay, so sinabi dito net present value. Okay, mamaya tatanungin ko to kung paano nakuha yung positive na net present value. Ha? Okay, dito naman, invest daw kasi positive cash flow, higher than the initial investment. Okay, so this is a common answer, no? So ang ginawa nitong group na to, inad nila, no? Inad nila to. Kasi ito, pag inad natin, if we sum this up, okay, let's do this, is equal to sum natin to. So that gives us 15, no? That gives us 15. 15,000 yung mga pasok na cash flow natin. Tapos yung outflow natin, is 10,000. So mas malaki nga naman, no? Yung positive cash inflow natin, or just simply cash inflow, is greater than the cash outflow. So 5,000 yung neto, di ba? Net cash inflow na mas malaki. So this sounds reasonable, no? So, ang answer na to, ang sabi, because the positive cash flow is higher than the initial investment. That's true, no? Pero let's see if this is a valid reason in finance. So ito naman, no. Because you have to consider the value of money that decreases over time. Okay, so nabanggit tong the value of money that decreases over time kasi ang cash flow niya 54411, no? Bumababa, no? Ito. Mamaya i-discuss natin to, 54411. Okay, so it doesn't look like a very good proposition, no? Kasi pababa yung cash flow natin over time, 54411. Okay? All right. So 5,000 only cash inflow in 5 years. So ito din pareho sa pero iba yung reasoning nila, no? Yung isa, okay, invest yung project natin kasi may 5,000 net na cash flow. Ito naman, no, kasi too risky at saka parang only, no? Pag sinabing only, so parang parang konti lang, no? Too risky since the company computed a decrease. Sinabi din niya na decrease in cash inflow might not benefit investors. Okay? So thank you for this answer, guys. And again, we'll validate this. Ang sinasabi dito, too risky, tapos sabi, yung bumababa yung decreases over time. Okay? These are good answers. Sabi nito, mag-i-invest daw kasi makukuha yung yung initial na 10,000. That's good, no? So, ganun din, ang net cash flow is 5,000. So, marirecover yung initial investment na 10,000. Okay, dito, mas mataas yung positive. Ganun din, no? So, kinumpare yung lahat ng inflow versus lahat ng outflow, and then it turns out that the inflow is higher than the outflow. Okay, has been growing positively for the past 5 years, even though it has been slowing down the past 2 years. Okay, so medyo a bit confusing yung sabi dito kasi growing positively for the past 5 years pero slowing down naman. Okay, siguro what this group meant was that positive naman yung cash flow eh. Yung nga lang nag-slow down siya the past 2 years. See, I don't know what those 2 years are. Is it year 1, year 2, year 3, no? So we can only surmise, no? Okay, so ito din, ang sabi, parang pareho to dun sa iba na ano na mas malaki yung ano yung total cash inflow. Okay? Bilang guys, so let me just drink. Okay. Then this one, upon assessing the validity of the project, okay, hindi mag-i-invest due to the low return in investment. Okay, so take note guys of this low return in investment over the years. Sabi nila, ang total inflow 15,000, okay, ang total outflow is 10,000. So tapos din nag-decrease yung cash flow to entry from 5,000 naging 4,000 na lang. Severe drop in severe drop nga, no? From 5,000 bumaba ng 4,000, then naging 1,000 na lang. Okay. Even if the company pays back the initial investment, okay, so sabi ng group, the group says that even if na-recover yung 10,000 initial investment, the total profitability, which is not actually profitability, ano, this is the net cash flow, is quite low and not worth the risk and effort. Okay, now these are very good answers, no? Ito na ba yan? Sorry, ito, no? Ang daming points na highlight itong group na to. And I like how they were quite comprehensive in how they answered. However, we will have to validate this, no? Kung on a finance perspective, are these valid reasons, no? Kasi we, again, yung concept ng ano, maganda to, no? Yung returns daw quite low, and then it's not worth the risk and the effort. Okay, so ang gandang tanongin dyan, who will now determine kung hindi worth yung risk and effort? Although you work as a group, most probably you agreed, no, on this na hindi worth yung risk. It's interesting to know where the group was coming from. Ano yung naging basis nila na yung risk na ina-assume ng company for this project is not worth it, no? We'll discuss that later. Tapos ito naman, although the total per year, so ibig sabihin yung total is greater than the initial na 10,000, the project won't seem to last long, so we should not invest in it. Okay, again, this is a new thing na this is the group that only mentioned about the duration. Usually guys, ang mga projects may duration yan. Usually pag nag-determine tayo kung yung project is feasible or not, may time frame talaga yan. Kunyari, by mag-invest tayo ng machine. So, the company will come up with what we call a capital budgeting effort to determine ano yung cash inflow at saka cash outflow for this particular project. And then, usually, they come up with a time frame. Kasi hindi naman forever yung mga machines eh. So, will this machine last for 5 years? So, hanggang 5 years lang yun. Will this machine last for 10 years? So hanggang 10 years yung life ng project na natitingnan natin. So depende dun sa project, depende dun sa, kunyari, if it's a capital equipment or an equipment, depende dun sa estimated longevity or estimated life ng project. However, talaga magkakaroon ng term, no, ng duration. So let's take a look at those. Let's analyze quickly. So I like what you said, no? May mga minention kayo na, okay, so let me just, you mentioned, may mga terms na NPV, no? So somebody mentioned net present value. Okay, somebody mentioned profit. Tapos expenses pa. Tapos nag-mention pa na recovered or payback period, no? Bari-recover yung investment. Tapos meron pang yung net, no? Na-mention yung net cash flow, which is the 5,000, 5K. Okay? Na-mention din yung duration ng project, no? So sabi, short term lang, relatively. And then na-mention din yung decreasing cash flow. Okay, so I was summarizing the answers, no? Okay, let's take a look at that as we discuss this. So ito nakikita niyo sa Excel, ito yung yung cash flow daw. So remember, cash flow to. Kung hindi cash flow yan, kunyari ang binigay net income after tax, we will have to convert this first into cash flow. Okay? Hindi natin ina-analyze yung net income after tax ng project, ang ina-analyze natin yung cash flow. For the reason that, sabi natin na yung mga transactions natin with investors are in cash. So they expect cash in return. So dapat ang mini-measure natin yung cash flows and not net income. Because net income or accounting profit is not the same as cash. In formulating, in constructing the income statement, may mga expenses doon na non-cash. Perhaps there are also revenues that are non-cash. So the net income, the bottom line, does not really equal your cash flow. So what do we need to do, guys? Kung ang alam natin yung income statement, we will have to convert them into cash flows before we can analyze the viability of the project. Okay, so what we did here was to add 15,000. Inad natin, and then that's why we got, kung i-sum up natin to, okay, andali Yeah, 5,000, no? 5,000. That's your net cash flow, no? And we're saying here that okay yung project because the net cash flow is positive. That was the answer given by some of the groups. Now, may isang group naman na sinasabi masyado maliit yung 5,000. It's not worth the risk. Okay, so we have a problem here. How do we now evaluate this? Now, if we will just leave this to our self perceptions, no, yung sarili nating pananaw, then we'll have several answers. We will not have a solid answer based on principles, no? Okay, so let me explain. First, guys, mali ito. We cannot add this algebraically because we said that these cash flows belong to different time frames. Okay, and so let me illustrate here. We will be violating the principles of finance kasi in order to determine that, kailangan ito yung gagawin natin, no? Okay, so let's first draw the timeline. So here I'm drawing the timeline 0, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. Okay? Hanggang year 5. Tapos dito, may cash outflow na 10,000. Dito, 5, 4, 4, 1, 1. Okay. Now, we cannot add 5, 4, 4, 1, 1 kasi it violates the time value of money principle. Diba sabi natin, 1 peso today is not the same as 1 peso after 1 year. So we just don't add this. We cannot add these figures. So what do we do? What we do, I think you learned this in your business math, is that in order for us to add these cash flows, kailangan nasa isang time frame sila. So pwede natin i-convert lahat ng yan sa year 3 o lahat ng yan to year 5. So magkano silang lahat, isa-isahin natin sa year 5 yung mga yan. But usually what's done is to convert everything to time 0. Now. Okay? Yun ang ginagawa natin, no? So, itong 10,000, magkano yan ngayon? 10,000 na yan, no? Okay? Nasa time 0 na siya. Itong iba, itong 5,000, after 1 year, magkano siya ngayon? Yan ang hahanapin natin, no? Ito, how much is this now? How much is this now? How much is this now? Yung 1,000 na ito, magkano siya ngayon? Magkano ito ngayon? Okay? Therefore, we have to convert this in what we call their present values. Okay? So, makukuha natin yan, guys, You have learned in your business math the formula that the present value is equal to your future value times 1 plus a certain rate of return raised to the negative t. Or you can do this as divided by 1 plus r raised to the t. So pareho lang yun. Okay, so in order to determine the present values of your cash flows, kailangan gamitin natin yung formula na yan, no? Kaso may mga questions lang tayo dyan. Yung future value, alam natin. They're just the cash flows. Okay, so we will be converting these cash flows into their present values. Ano yung R? What is the R that we're going to use? Okay, the R that we're going to use is the weighted average cost of capital. Okay, weighted average cost of capital. And then we know the T, no? So for this, for the 5,000, the T is 1. Ito 2, 3, 4, 5. Yun ang T natin. So mako-compute natin to guys kung alam natin yung WACC, yung weighted average cost of capital. We can compute for this. And once we have computed for all the present values, okay, si 10,000 guys, present value na yan, no? So when you compute for the present value of 10,000, you'll get 10,000 kasi nasa year 0 na siya. Okay, pag na-compute na natin lahat yan, tapos i-add natin sila lahat, you get what a figure called your figure called NPV. NPV. Ito na yon guys, no? Net present value. Okay, isa lang yan, isang value lang yan. So ito mga to guys, these are not your net present values. These are your cash flows. Pag kinonvert natin lahat sila sa times 0, then i-add natin yung sum. Okay? Sum. That's why the NPV is, okay ko dito, wait, let me adjust. Okay, so we have the net present value is just the summation of the present value of your cash flows. Yan, no? Ang NPV natin is simply sum up natin lahat ng present value ng cash flows natin. So that's what we mean by net present value. And the decision rule is if the net present value is positive, then okay yung project. Pag less than 0 siya, pag negative, then reject the project. Okay? So that's the decision rule. That's how we determine kung if a project is feasible or not. So wala siyang kumbaga walang not so much room for dito yung subjectivity, no? Medyo may benchmark tayo na ginagamit which is the net present value. Okay. All right. So again guys, these are not profit and expenses, no? These are the cash flows. And then one group said mari-recover in 2.5 years. I think I read that. Saan nanggaling yon? Okay, dito yon guys, no? Kasi after year 2, ilan na yung cash flow na nakuha natin? 9,000 na, no? On year 3, okay, makakuha ng 4,000. Therefore, mababawi na natin. So it's between year 2 and year 3. Mababawi na natin yung cash flow natin. Kasi pag sinama mo lahat sa year 3, yung 4,000, this is already 13,000. Okay? So between year 2 and year 3, ang in-estimate ng group is 2.5. We'll learn how to compute more, sabihin natin accurately, but assuming that the cash flows are obtained uniformly throughout the period. Okay, so that's what this means, no? Na-recover yung initial investment natin na 10,000 between the second and the third year. Okay, we call that the payback period. So yung payback period, ang estimate ng group is, okay, right here, payback. Okay, how long will we be able to recover the initial investment? So between the second and the fifth year. Okay, so sabi natin guys, ang decision whether the project is good or not is based on NPV. Okay, you could have answered, kukunin dapat yung present values nila, tapos saka i-add, then that's called your net present value. And if the net present value is positive, then the project is okay. If the net present value is negative, then the project is not okay. Okay, then yung decreasing pa, no? Sa kabilang section, guys, may na-mention sila na IRR. So let me just share with you, no? Yung one group in the other section mentioned IRR. Susulat ko lang siya dito. IRR, which is the internal rate of return. Okay, internal rate of return is the return of the project. Okay, so we can use Excel to compute for the IRR. Yung group na yun, guys, kinumpute nila, no? And the values are, ito yung mga values natin. Okay, just ignore the guess. Okay, so we're getting an IRR of 20.85. Okay, so let me ask you one thing, guys. Based on IRR, kasi kanina nasagot na natin based on NPV. Based on IRR, paki-chat na. I hope everyone will participate here. Okay, hindi, ipopoll ko na lang, no? Okay. Sandali. Paano ko ba i-edit, no? Edit, sandali. Okay. Save. Sige. Okay, paki-answer nga, guys. If the IRR is 20.85%, should we invest? So what's your answer? Is it a yes or a no? Given that na-compute natin yung IRR. Okay, 10 more seconds, guys. 11 have not yet answered. Meron pang siyam na hindi sumasagot. I hope everybody answers. Five more students to respond. Okay, thank you. 4 na lang. Okay, 3 na lang. I hope we get 100% participation. 3 more students. We're waiting for 3 more students to answer. Okay, last 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's close this. 2 were not able to answer. And nothing polling. And then let me share results. Okay, so you can see the results, guys. 20 of you answered yes, and 5 of you answered no. Okay, may I have a volunteer, guys? Who answered no? Anyone from those who answered no? Any volunteer? I'd like to know, guys, ano yung reason kung bakit nag-no kayo. Pati magtatanong din ako sa yes, no? Let's see, let's analyze and let's see what was your reason in saying that we should not proceed with the project. Anyone, please? Any volunteer? Any brave soul, guys? Okay, so yung sa yes na muna while we're waiting for the no's. Any volunteer dun sa yes? Could we have some answers from those who voted yes? What was your reason for saying it's a go, no? It's a yes, based on an IRR of 20%. Yes, Basti?
Sir, ang ginawa ko lang po kasi is that yung current na net present value, I just multiplied it lang po by 0.2058. And then yung product na nun, I subtracted it from 5. Yung product nun po, sir, I subtracted it from yung 5,000, which still ended out as a positive number po.
Okay, thank you, Basti. That's interesting way, no? So ang ginawa ni Basti, thank you, Basti, for that, for volunteering your answer, no? So may process na ginawa si Basti. Ang sabi ni Basti, okay, ang ginawa niya, you got the NPV?
Yes, sir. Yung 5K.
Itong 5K, and then you multiplied it by
I multiplied it po by 20.85%, yung decimal form niya po.
Okay. So
and then subtracted it from 5,000, yung product niya.
Okay. So 5,000, and then sinubtract mo tong 0.285 times 5,000. It will always be positive, syempre, no? Kasi you're subtracting from 5,000 20% of 5,000, di ba? So the return, the excess would be around 80%, no? Sabihin natin 20% to. So from 5,000, you subtract 20% of 5,000. That means the remaining one will be 80% of 5,000. That will be positive. Okay, so thank you, Basti, for that. Okay. Any other comments, guys? Okay, any volunteers? Okay, Basti, please remind me later na yung I'll put +2 points dun sa Kahoot mo for answering. Okay, remind me
Apo, sir.
Okay, magpa +2 ako sa'yo for volunteering your answer. Okay, any more, guys? Yung no, wala bang share ng answer niya kung bakit no yung answer nila? IRR of 20.85%. Okay. Bakit no yung answer? No one? Okay, sige guys, explain ko Now, itong IRR na to na 20.85%, that's the return, no? Return ng project yan. This project gives us a return of 20.85. Therefore, if we are going to decide whether this is okay or not, kasi hati yung ano natin, but there are many of you who said it's a yes. Lesser yung nagsabi na it's a no. Okay? So how do we decide that? Balikan natin, guys, yung fundamental principles natin. Okay? Let's go back to our fundamental principles. Doon tayo babalik no? Sabi natin doon sa investment principle natin na any project that the company will engage in, dapat yung returns ng project na yan should be what? Guys, anyone? Paki-chat, guys. Ano daw dapat yung returns ng project na yan? Qualify natin yan, guys, in the past few sessions natin. ano dapat yung returns na yan? May condition tayo, di ba? Para katanggap-tanggap yung project na yan. It should be?
Sir, I think it should be the higher the rate, the rate of return would mean that it's more desirable.
Okay. Pero incomplete pa yun, no? The higher the return. Kaso, ang question kasi, what is higher? Of course, higher, the higher the return, the better. Pero ang pinag-uusapan natin ngayon, how do we know if we will accept that project? Kasi kunyari, 12% is better than 10%. That's true. Pero should we accept the project with 12%? Do we then accept that? Okay, I think, ayan na ano na ni Ada at saka ni Mary, ano? Andyan yung answer, guys. Take a look at the chat box, guys. Higher than the WACC, okay? Or the investment should earn greater than the risk-adjusted hurdle rate. The risk-adjusted hurdle rate is your WACC. No? So that's the answer, guys. We benchmark this against the WACC, against the hurdle rate. Kasi the return of the project is 20.85%. Ngayon, magkano yung average cost na pagkukuha natin ng financing, ng funds? Okay, let's assume that the WACC is, let's assume the WACC is 12%, no? WACC is 12%. And then you have a return of the project 20.85%. So should we push through with the project? You know the answer, guys. It's a yes. No? It's a yes kasi mas mataas yung return ng project kaysa dun sa cost ng pagkukuha ng capital. Yung cost ng capital, guys, no? So definitely, guys, it's a yes. So the answer there to that question is if the IRR is greater than the weighted average cost of capital, then the project is okay. And that's what the investing and financing principle is all about. May benchmark tayo. So we're not left to our opinions, or we're not left to our whims, no? Kasi kunyari sa isang room, 10 tayong nagde-decide. Usually we might not be able to come up with a unified agreement kasi magkakaiba tayong opinion. For some, 12% might be low. For some, 12% might be already high. So how do we now determine it? A good thing with finance, guys, alam natin, masasagot natin kasi ang tanong natin, magkano ba yung cost ng pagkuha ng capital, ng investment? No? Magkano yung cost na yon? So if it's 12%, dapat any project, guys, any project that the company will engage in should be greater, the return of that project should be greater than the weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so very fundamental, no? Very basic. It's really common sense. No? Okay, so wag tayong mag-engage sa project kung ang return is only 5%. Kasi kumukuha tayo ng capital, ang cost nun 12%, tapos yung project natin is 5%. Okay? So, sorry, ano sinabi ni Basti? Oh, yeah, that's the answer yung WACC, no? Okay. All right. So, okay, may another question ako. We will assume, guys, actually makukompute natin yung NPV dito, no? There's a shortcut in Excel, although kukunin natin to in the future, guys, sa module 3 yata, no? I'm going to compute for the NPV, the net present value, okay? So it will require the rate, ano yung rate na yun? Yung WACC. So ang WACC natin is 12%, comma. Then you have here values, cash flows to. And the values here are future cash flows. So I start with year 1 hanggang year 5, but I will have to include yung cash flow at year 0. Kasi net ang hinahanap natin, no? So isasama pa natin yung year 0. Pina-plus ko siya kasi negative na siya, no? Kunyari, naka-positive to pero net cash outflow siya, which is usually the case, no? Ima-minus ko siya dito. Okay, so this is the net present value, 1703.13. Okay, question. Okay ba yung project? Paki-chat, guys. Okay yung project? Na-discuss natin yan. Is the project okay? Answer, yes. Okay, thank you, Ada. Yes. You're correct. No? Bakit yes, guys? Ang decision rule, if the net present value is positive, no, then okay yung project because it means that the present value of your cash inflows is greater than the present value of your cash outflows. Yes, that's correct. Tama yung mga sinabi nyo, yes, and NPV is plus. Okay, good, good. You got it, no? You got it. Okay, I'll have another poll. No? Okay, I'll have another poll. Stop share results. Okay. Edit natin. Create. Okay, my poll is this, no? Okay, suppose the IRR is 10%. 10% lang yung IRR. Okay, IRR is 10%. So less than the WACC yan, ha? IRR is equal to 10%. And then NPV is 1703. Okay, my question is, okay, this is a yes, and this is a no. Okay, then pulse ako. Okay, so my question is, IRR natin 10%. Assume natin na 10% siya. NPV is 1703. Note that IRR is lower than 12%. So, should the project be continued or not? Okay, very challenging question, no? Kasi may conflict tayo eh. NPV sabi, oo. IRR sabi, wag. Kasi mas mababa yung yung IRR sa sa WACC na 12%. So I hope everyone answers, guys. So we have 9 who have answered. Okay, thank you for those who are answering. Okay, 10 more. 10 more votes, guys. Okay, 3 more persons. 3 more. Tatlo na lang, guys. Okay, 2. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, so let's stop here and polling. Share results. Okay, so the no votes have it, guys. 15 of you said no, 63%, and 9 of you said yes, 9%. Okay, let me answer that question. Okay, may problem tayo, guys, kasi sabi natin, i-assume natin IRR is only 10%, no? In-assume ko lang yan, ha? Actually, based on these cash flows, IRR is 20.85%, no? Pero in-assume lang natin na 10%. So if we will base it on IRR, answer is reject the project kasi it's less than the average cost of capital. Based on NPV, project is okay. So when there's a conflict between the NPV and the IRR, you always follow the IRR is not the correct answer. Always follow the NPV. So, yes, tuloy yung project. Okay? So, nangyayari yan, guys. Nangyayari na yung IRR is less than the weighted average cost of capital. NPV is positive. Now, you might ask me, bakit? Bakit hindi ba dapat consistent yung dalawang yan? Okay, it has something to do with how IRR is computed. Okay? May assumptions yung pag-compute ng IRR which might not be theoretically better than NPV. So si NPV, tama talaga yung pag-compute niya, theoretically. So when nagko-conflict si NPV at saka si IRR, Okay, ang ginagamit lagi si NPV. Okay, that's why there's another measure called MIRR, Modified Internal Rate of Return, which we're going to discuss later on. Now, si MIRR, laging tumutugma kay NPV yan. Okay? So, once again, guys, the decision rule is, if the NPV, which is the net present value, which is computed by getting the present values of your cash flows, and adding it up, summing it up, then okay yung project natin. In terms of IRR, it should always be greater than the cost of capital. Now, may isa pang tayo hindi na-discuss dito, yung decreasing cash flows. Okay, babalikan ko yung tanong. Okay, Basti, what's your question?
Sir, sorry, can you re-explain lang po kung bakit i-pursue po yung project kahit lesser po yung IRR sa WACC?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Basti, for that question. Okay, now it has something to do, the reason why we follow NPV, when NPV conflicts with IRR, the reason why we follow NPV is that in computing the IRR, merong mga assumptions na ginagawa. So ngayon, hindi pa natin i-discuss yan, pero pagpunta natin sa time value of money, i-discuss natin. Sa pag-compute ng IRR, may mga assumptions na medyo may pwedeng masasabi natin na medyo may question tayo doon. So theoretically, mas tama yung pag-compute ng NPV compared to IRR. That's why when these two conflict, we make use of the net present value. That's why finance has come up with another measure. Yung measure na yon ang tawag MIRR. It's the modified. Okay,
so sir, it's just basing off lang po sa NPV?
Yeah. Pag nagko-conflict, ha?
If may conflicting IRR?
Oo. I-base natin sa NPV.
Okay. Sige
Okay.
po. Thank you.
Pag may conflict lang, ha? Okay.
Apa.
Thank you, Basti.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. But usually naman, they agree, no? They agree. That's why I said that when there's a conflict between IRR and NPV, there's another measure called the modified internal rate of return. Okay? And this is now yung theory nito sa pag-compute nito pareho sa NPV. Okay, so they will always agree. MIRR and NPV will always agree as far as results are concerned compared to yung IRR. No? Okay, okay. Sige, thank you, Mark, for informing me about math. Okay, sige lang, sige lang. Talaga nangyayari yung power outage, no? Okay, so so I think I have answered that question. Now ito na lang yung decreasing cash flow. Balik ako guys sa sa question ko kanina, no? Okay, which would you want to prefer? 1 million after 1 year or 1 million after 10 years? Paki-chat nga guys. After 1 year or after 10 years? Ano mas gusto nyo? Makuha nyo yung 1 million after 1 year or 1 million after 10 years? Okay? Okay, I'm sure guys should answer 1 year. Di ba? Kasi na-discuss natin yan, yung time value of money. Mas maganda kung makuha natin yung 1 million after 1 year kasi pwede natin kagad magamit yung funds and then invest it somewhere kaysa maghihintay pa tayo ng 10 years. Okay? Ganun din dito guys. Yung sinasabi natin decreasing cash flow. Okay? Kasi ang sinasabi natin dito, okay, based on what you were saying a while ago, you were apprehensive kasi bumababa yung cash flow dito. Ano? 5,4,1,1. Assuming guys na ang total cash flow is still 15,000. So would you rather have this 1,000? I-reverse ko siya, 1,000, 4,000, 4,000. And huli, sorry, dapat yung huli 5,000. Okay. Now compare that guys. No? Ito, increasing yung cash flow natin over time. Tumataas yung cash flow natin. 1,1,4,4,5. Ito naman bumababa, 5,4,4,1,1. Okay, both have the same 15,000 total. Okay, although sabi natin hindi natin pwedeng i-add yun, no? Kasi it violates the time value of money. But let's just look at that, no? So mas maganda guys, sinong set ng cash flow? Definitely mas maganda to. Ito, yung decreasing cash flow. Kasi ibig sabihin nun, naloload na yung mga malalaking cash flows dun sa early parts of the investments. Okay, sabi ko nga, ang assumption dito guys, sa 15,000 yung total cash flow nito. No? So it's better, kung pwedeng 15,000 lahat sa first year, then mas maganda talaga yun. No? Okay, but usually guys, ang tinitingnan natin, yung life ng asset, kunwari 5 years yan. So pina-forecast natin yung cash flows natin for the next 5 years. Okay, so as far as the decreasing cash flow is concerned, theoretically guys, that's wrong. No? Now, we would not want that the cash flow to be increasing over time, assuming again that you have the same amount of cash flows. No? We would want a decreasing cash flow. Mas gusto natin yun kasi ibig sabihin ng decreasing cash flow, na-load na sa early years yung mas malaking amount. Okay, so that's what I meant by that. No? Unlike this one, oo nga, tumataas yung cash flow nito, guys. Pero tandaan nyo guys, ha? Ito. Okay, sana ako. Ito, lumalaki yung cash flow natin over time. 1,000, 1,000, 4,000, 4,000, 5,000. Pero pag kinuha mo yung present value niya, magkano yung value niya ngayon? Yung 5,000 after 1 year, pag kinuha mo yung present value niyan, maliit na. No? Mas maliit yan kaysa 5,000 makuha natin after 1 year. Okay, that's the principle behind discounting. Discounting yung tawag na to eh. So kung mas malapit sa year 0, yung discounting will be higher. Okay? Okay, clear yung guys? So I hope that's clear. Okay. But thank you guys for your answers kasi it generated a wealth of ideas for us to use as talking points, no? Na pinag-usapan natin yung mga to. So I hope this is clear guys. So let me just recapitulate. So you use cash flows, not net incomes, not accounting profit. Okay, and then we cannot add cash flows if they belong to different time frames because that violates the principle of time value of money. That money has cost. 1 peso today is not the same as 1 peso in the future. Okay. Also, we use some benchmarks like NPV, no, to determine if the project is feasible. Net present value. Ang rule natin sa NPV, if it's greater than 0, then okay yung project natin. IRR then, we can use that for as long as the IRR is greater than your weighted average cost of capital, then okay yung project natin. And then we said that normally these two agree. No? But if there's a conflict between the two, it's always the NPV that will prevail. Mas tama kasi theoretically yung pag-compute ng NPV kaysa sa IRR. Okay, so any questions guys? Any questions here? Yes, Basti?
Sir, just to re-clarify lang po.
Yes, sure.
You would prefer to have a decrease in cash flow para mabawasan na yung load ng cash flow over the years?
Hindi, ganito kasi ang assumption natin parehong amount parehong 15,000.
Apo sir, yung magiging
cash flow natin.
Apo.
Yung cash flow natin, ang total niya 15,000. So
yes,
which would we prefer? Itong cash flow na to, ito, or ito? Yung increasing over time, yung 11445, or itong 54411. Both of them have the same totals, no, 15,000. Pero
yes,
when we consider the time value of money, which we should, no? This will definitely be the better cash flow. Kasi the closer you are, kunyari yung 5,000 dito, sa year 1 yan eh. Di ba? Kasi ito yung 5,000 na to sa year 5. So sabi nga natin, sino ba mas gusto mo? Yung 5,000 na makukuha mo kagad sa year 1 o yung 5,000 na sa year 5 mo pa makukuha? Definitely.
5,000 na makukuha mo sa first year.
Exactly. Yun ang rational natin dito, no? Kasi it's very good that you pointed out. Maganda yung observation, guys. I like your observation. Sinabi ng groups, no? Several groups, I think, na they would not invest here kasi nagdi-decrease yung cash flow, no? Nagdi-decrease. When in fact, guys, maganda talaga yun. Oo, pag decreasing yung cash flow. Kunyari, naloload kagad sa simula yung cash flow na malalaki, tapos lumiliit siya over time. Kasi guys, habang lumalayo yan, okay, di ba habang lumalayo, yung effect sa present value becomes smaller. Okay, so mas malaki yung impact ng cash flows dun sa dun sa first few years. So mas maganda since mas malaki yung impact niyan, mas maganda na mas malaki mga cash flow sa unang taon, in the first few years, comparing it to those cash flows that you get in the later years. In fact, guys, kunyari, ang life ng project, assuming 100 years. Yung 100, guys, yung cash flow dun sa 100 years, halos negligible na yan. It's very negligible. Why? Kasi, guys, okay, magkukonting math tayo dito, no? Remember, ang formula natin ng present value is equal to, let me write it in another way, future value divided by 1 plus r to the t. No? Kanina, times 1 plus r raised to the negative t. That's yung algebra niya. Na. Notice guys, habang lumalaki na lumalaki yung time, habang lumalayo na lumalayo yan, kunyari year 100, what happens? Your discount factor becomes very, very, very big. So pag lumalaki na lumalaki yung discount factor natin, lumiliit yung present value. Okay? Kasi your future value is your given amount, then yung discount factor natin, this becomes very, 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 very big, guys. Kung yung T natin becomes very, 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 very big. Kunyari, 100 years na. Ala, ang liit na ng present value niyan. Why does the present value become small? Kasi lumalaki yung divisor natin, yung denominator natin. And exponential yan, guys. Ha? Raised to the t. Hindi siya times t. Okay? So that's why, guys, when we go to the concept of the time value of money, makikita natin yung math nito. No? I'm going to show you, we're going to draw plot the exponential effect of discount rates and compound rates. Okay? Did that answer your question, Basti?
Yes, sir. So, basta as much cash flow as you get on your first year, you know, it would be a good sign?
Yeah, oo. Mas better kung yung malalaking cash flow nasa first few years. But of course, pero, guys, yeah, sige.
Kahit mag-decreasing po siya, it's a good sign na ganyan yung cash flow mo, sir.
Ang assumption natin dito, pareho silang cash flow, yung total, parehong 15,000. So we were comparing which is the better cash flow here. Ito ba yung 54411 or 11445?
Apo, sir. Tapos ang sinabi niya po is yung 54411 ang better.
Yes. Why? Kasi mas mataas yung nito, present value.
So taas present value.
Tingnan natin sige. Just yeah, I like those questions, no? Let's compute for the NPV, no? Okay, sige. Copy ko to, pakita ko lang sa inyo as proof, no? Okay, stop sharing ko muna to. Okay, let me copy this ito. Control C and then ipunta ko dito, Pakita ko sa inyo kay Excel, no? Okay, Control V. Okay, palitan natin to, gawin natin, i-reverse natin cash flow. 1, 4, 4, and 5. Okay. So ito yung pangalawang pangalawang cash flow, no? Ito increasing yung cash flow. So are we claiming now that an increasing cash flow is better than a decreasing cash flow? Assuming na pareho lang naman silang total na 15,000, no? Okay, so NPV, compute natin, is equal to NPV. Okay? Ang rate natin dito is 12%, okay, comma. Ang cash flow natin, ang mga values natin, we start with the year 1. Okay? And then plus natin itong 10,000 yung year 0. Enter. In fact, guys, pag reverse yung cash flow natin, increasing over time, take a look at your NPV. Di-reject na yung project na to. Diba? Tingnan nyo, guys.
Sir, that made absolute sense.
Ano, no? Sorry.
I mean, I don't mean like anything, but I mean, naging confused lang po because like it suddenly became a negative value.
Kasi sabi nga natin, kino-compute dito yung NPV, di ba, yung net present value. And the net present value is dependent on time. Kasi time value yan eh. So if you see, guys, yung mga 1,000 na to, nasa early year siya. Yung 5,000 natin, nasa later year na eh. So, maliit na yung present value niyan, yung 5,000 na to. Samantalang guys, yung na-load yung 5,000 dito in the earlier years, malaki yung impact niya sa present value. Mas malaki talaga yung yung effect. Kasi nga sabi ko, in this case, we are discounting, no? Dinidiscount natin. Pag kinukuha natin present value, ang tawag doon, discounting. It's 83.62, no? So, pag ganito yung cash flow natin, guys, reject yung project na yan. Okay? Reject yung project if you have this cash flow. And based on yung timeline na tinitingnan natin, di ba, nag-i-increase yung cash flow na to. Samantalang yung isa nagdi-decrease. So, inaccurate yung comment na because nagdi-decrease yung cash flow, ibig sabihin ng hindi maganda. No? Okay, ultimately guys, the answer is, kailangan computein yung NPV. Okay, that's the bottom line. We have to compute for the bottom line. Okay, thank you, Basti. Thank you for that question, and thank you for the comment. Okay, any other questions, guys? Okay, I love discussions like this, guys. Okay lang na maano yung lesson natin. Ito kasi, guys, maraming concepts na nakla-clarify, and that's very, very good. So I really appreciate you asking questions. So don't be ashamed, guys, kung may question kayo dun sa topic. Do not be ashamed to ask, no? Kasi we will not treat any question here as subpar question. Lahat ng questions dito importante. Kasi we are in the journey of learning. Okay? All right. So any other questions on that? Okay. That's very good, no? Kasi parang advanced learning na natin to pag dumating tayo sa time value of money. Kasi uulitin natin to. Plus, of course, mas complicated na yung mga examples natin. Okay, so let's finish, guys. Ito, medyo, I have 10 minutes to finalize this. Okay, so let's just recapitulate. Sabi natin, dati, no? Ang fundamental principles in finance borders on the investment, financing, and dividend decision. So investments, kung may investment, dapat cash flow yung ginagamit. Tapos, dapat yung return ng project na yan should be greater than the weighted average cost of capital, which is the risk-adjusted hurdle rate. Okay, sabi din natin, we can use NPV and IRR. Okay yung project kung if NPV is greater than 0. Okay yung project if IRR is greater than the WACC. If there's a conflict between the two, then we use the NPV. Or we can use the MIRR also, and MIRR, modified internal rate of return, and NPV will always yield the same results. Okay, in terms of financing decisions, sabi natin guys, importante na malaman ng company yung financing mix nila, yung optimal financing mix. Tapos yung WACC na yan guys, yan ang ginagamit natin to evaluate projects. And lastly, yung dividend decision. Dividends are important because they give a strong signal to the market. A company that's able to give dividends regularly is a sign that it's very stable, it's very profitable, and it's generating value for their shareholders. No? Ang question nga lang dyan, how much dividends will be given to the shareholders? So that's a very important function of finance. Magbibigay ba o hindi? Ang general principle, guys, kung wala namang masyadong opportunities out there in the market, no? Then mas maganda din kung magbigay ng dividend sa ano. If there are good opportunities in the market, and mas maganda kung gamitin na muna yung cash sa pag-expand ng business, then I'm sure the shareholders will gladly accept that kasi nagkakaroon naman ng shareholders meeting yan eh. Tapos i-explain ng management kung bakit ganun yung decision. Okay, so these three principles, no? And then, guys, meron tayong, sabi natin, fundamental principles then, corollary principles. We have discussed most of this. Number one is that cash flow is king. Okay? Alam natin na pag nag-investment decision making natin tayo, dapat cash flows ang ginagamit natin. And we use, number two, the time value of money. Hindi tayo basta-basta pwede mag-add ng mga cash flows. Number three, risk and return. The higher the assumed risk, the higher the required return. No rational person will ever invest kung he is assuming a greater amount of risk, tapos halos pareho lang returns makukuha niya relative to another form of investment, which has a lower risk attached to it. The higher the risk, guys, the rationality principle tells us that investors will require a higher amount of risk. Although this does not happen often also, kasi meron tayong tinatawag na irrational exuberance, and that's coming from the field of behavioral finance. Very interesting yung topic na yan, guys. And there are many research already done on that. Then, ito naman, guys, yung market forces, yung efficient market hypothesis. Ano sinasabi niyan? Yung stock price, guys, it already includes all the relevant information. Okay, this is very important, yung EMH, efficient market hypothesis. Ang sinasabi niyan, markets are efficient. What will happen, guys, if markets are not efficient? If markets are not efficient, guys, baka people, investors will now have second thoughts in investing. Bakit? Kasi ang ibig sabihin ng efficient markets, all pertinent information are made available to everyone, all the investors, all the stakeholders. Wala yung tinatawag natin insider trading na just some select people are given that information. Hindi pwede yun, guys, pag efficient markets. Bakit importante information? Because information is key to decision making. Kunyari, before Jollibee acquired Red Ribbon, so in-announce yan. So everybody is knowledgeable about that move of Jollibee. So ngayon guided sila sa sa decision making. Magi-invest ako kay Jollibee kasi maganda yan na i-acquire nila si Red Ribbon. Ay, hindi ako magi-invest kasi baka parang losing proposition yan na baka hindi kumikita sa Red Ribbon, etc. With that information, guys, people have now that power in their hands to decide. Okay? So this information is a vital tool for decision making, which drives now, which affects now yung principal law natin ng law of supply and demand, di ba? So magandang information to. Mag-invest tayo sa company na to. Okay, so maraming gustong bumili. So tataas yung demand and the supply is fixed. So ano mangyayari sa stock price? Tataas yung stock price, tataas yung shareholder value. Okay? So importante na ganun, guys, yung mechanism ng markets, yung efficient market na to, So that's the assumption of markets, the efficient market hypothesis. Because if the markets are not efficient, then you might have problems as far as the operations of that market is concerned. Kasi baka may umalis may mga taong hindi na naniniwala sa market na yan kasi may dayaan o may insider trading kung tawagin. Just a few people benefit from this information, okay, and they act on that privileged information, which is not good, kasi dapat transparent. Kaya sa PSE, guys, it's run by Philippine Stock Exchange, very strict sila. Yung mga listed na companies yan, they're required full disclosure. Ibig sabihin ng full disclosure, kailangan i-announce sila yan. Okay? Kaya nga, that's why, guys, I'm encouraging you to choose companies that are listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange kasi they're really required to fully disclose yung mga relevant material information, okay? Because that can be used by potential investors or investors to make a decision about their investment or potential investment in that company. Okay, so that's the efficient market hypothesis. I would encourage you guys to do some readings of that sa internet. Ang daming information about that. And in fact, there's semi-strong, semi-strong, and weak forms of efficiency in the market. So I'd like to encourage you to read on that. Okay, next, agency problem. Alam na natin yan na in this time when professional managers are the ones that manage the company, they might come up with decisions that are inimical to the shareholders. Okay, so importante yan. Kaya nga, there's this Good Governance Act as prescribed by SEC na dapat yung mga board of directors dapat independent sila. So pag independent kasi yung board of directors, there's a weaker chance for the CEO to hold them by their necks, para maging rubber stamp lang yung BOD. Kung anong sinabi ng CEO, gagawin na kagad ng board. That's critical because nangyari sa US yan, na napaka-powerful ng mga CEOs, kontrolado nila yung board. No? Anong nangyari? Sige lang na sige yung mga CEOs, nagawa sila ng gawa ng mga decisions na which will benefit them. Imagine companies that do not earn, hindi maganda yung performance, tapos yung mga CEOs, very, very big yung mga bonuses. Saan ka nakakita ng gano'n, no? They have the gall, they have the nerve, ang kapal ng mga mukha, guys. Ano yung sinasabi, no? Na they give bonuses to themselves, millions, no? So they have big mansions, to travel from place to place. Meron silang jet provided by the company, gastos ng company. Pero hindi naman perform yung company. No? Saan yung justice doon, di ba? Kaya nga sila binabayaran ng malaki, binibigyan ng mga perks para mapaganda yung business. Eh, hindi nangyayari. So that's a problem in agency. No? Ang laking problem, agency. So quickly now, guys, let me just summarize this. Sabi natin, principle number 1, cash is king. The bigger, the better. Siyempre, mas malaking cash flow, the better. The timing, also, the sooner, the better. Ito yung sinasabi natin kanina. The sooner we get the cash, and the bigger cash, the better. The risk of the cash flows, the less risk is better. So, mas maganda, guys, na nasa isang industry tayo na stable, kaysa sa isang industriya na medyo delicate, no? Medyo hindi natin alam kung ano mangyayari sa industry na yun. Kasi mas risky yung cash flow doon. Okay, so okay lang ba for me to continue on 2 minutes, guys? Okay lang, do I have your permission? Tapusin ko lang yung quickly mga slides na to. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you. Okay, salamat ha. Quickly, guys. Okay, ito, sabi natin cash flow is what matters, no? Hindi accounting profit, cash flows. Incremental cash flow, guys, ang tinitingnan natin dyan, kunyari sa year 5, meron tayong cash flow na negative 5,000, tapos meron din tayong 8,000. Ang titingnan natin dyan, yung incremental, yung 3,000. Bali yung difference, yung net cash flow ang tinitingnan. Okay, so when we compute, nakita nyo kanina yung year 0, year 1, year 2, isang figure lang yun, di ba? Sa year 1, isa. Mga net cash flows yun. Mga incremental cash flows yun. Okay, time value of money, alam natin na 1 peso today is better than 1 peso in the future kasi interest can earn on interest. And then risk and return principle, sabi natin kung may additional risk, dapat may additional compensation. Okay? Rationality invokes that, no? Yung rational investor magre-require talaga siya ng additional return. Okay? And then market prices are generally right. Ito yung sinasabi natin, efficient market hypothesis. And this tells us that yung price of traded assets like stocks and bonds already reflect the available information, relevant information about the asset. Kung hindi totoo yan, guys, magkakaroon tayo ng favored, yung mga ibang favored parties lang nakakakuha ng interest that will whack the environment, the market. Maraming aalis yan kasi hindi nila mapagkakatiwalaan yung market na yan. So it's important that markets are efficient. Of course, may mga levels ng efficiency, you know, and you can read on those, guys. Good information, valid information, relevant information can lead to good decisions, which because na-affect yung demand, no, can also impact the stock price, which also would increase the cash flow. Okay? So of course, hindi perfect yung markets. Meron tayong tinatawag din na distortions. Okay, and lastly, yung agency problem, na-discuss ko na to. Okay, last 3 slides, guys. Oops, mabilisan lang. Finance is common sense. Hindi ba common sense na yung investment natin dapat mas malakas, mas mataas sa WACC, di ba? Common sense yun. Okay? Hindi ba common sense na yung cost na 11% mas maganda kaysa cost na 12%? Or 12% mas maganda kaysa 13%? Common sense yun. Hindi ba common sense na ibigay na lang sa shareholders yung pera kung wala namang business opportunity sa labas, no? So common sense, it's also focus on the right investment decision, right mix of debt and equity, and right amount of cash. Okay? Singular objective, maximize shareholder value. Okay? And also universal, whether you're a big company, small company, private company, public company, international company, local company, lahat yan they follow the basic principles of finance. Walang na-exempt guys sa basic principles of finance. Okay? Lastly guys, itong VUCA, this is the business condition we're in now, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Okay, so please read on this. Sinasabi lang ito yung business environment. I'll talk on this next meeting briefly kasi pupunta na tayo sa ano. Pero may I request you guys to read on this. And then meron pang VUCA 2.0, no? So it's the antidote to VUCA. So pakibasa na lang yung guys. VUCA versus VUCA 2.0. Interesting read yan guys. I guarantee you, you'll get interested in this. All right, I'm sorry guys for extending. Salamat talaga for your patience. Let me stop recording.